Right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Hey Sis. Hey, Sis. Hey, Sis. Yes, it is so awesome to be here for, what is this, our third episode of Hey Sis, just growing and growing and getting stronger and stronger. And today it's, hey, sis, let's talk about sex. And so a subject that can sometimes be taboo for some people, but we are going to talk about it. And Hey Sis is a sisterhood. It's a non-membership sisterhood where we are just banding together, having candid conversations about things that most of us have either experienced in our life or are going to experience. So just here to help each other. And going through COVID, it kind of broke down some of those communications and interpersonal skills. And so Hey Sis is a time for us to be able to re-engage and reunite. And so we hope that you all enjoy the conversation. We have a live audience today for the first time and a wonderful panel and special guest. And I'm now going to turn it over to our fearless leader, Miss Kelly Allen Gray. Hey, sis.
Hey, sis. Hey, y'all. Listen, I am so excited to have you all with us. So we have a room full of beautiful, 2 rooms full of beautiful women who are doing great things in our community. We are here today at our Seasoned Survivors Clubhouse. And so for those of you who follow us on Facebook and Instagram, our Seasoned Survivors program is for persons who have been living with HIV for 10 or more years or ages 55 and older. And this is the place everybody wants to be. They have good food, they have good activities, they go on good trips, they have lots of different classes, people who come in and teach classes. I get to play bingo. I call bingo the last Monday of the month, but this is just a great place. And so I want to just really appreciate Bridget Washington, who is our director of the program, and Jamal Bay, who is the assistant coordinator, for all of the great things that they do. But then, I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to all of those who helped make this possible. So Adrian and Nathan, who are our videographers, thank you so much. Shelby, who runs all of our technology, our Facebook Live, thank you. She is also our taskmaster. Makia is in here, back here in the back. She keeps us in line. Yolanda Hawkins from BLT Mobile Bar did the drinks. Papacitos brought us food today because Nana's Kitchen was actually somewhere else and could not be with us. But thank you all for being here. I have a legal disclaimer that I have to read because I don't want anybody coming back at us. So give me just a second and I'll give it back to you. Stay. And so here's what it says. It says, the information discussed and provided during this live conversation is solely for informational and conversational purposes and is not intended to serve as a replacement for medical or professional advice. If you need medical or professional advice and treatment, please visit Psychology Today and/or the American Psychological Association, which we have linked in the comments below. So again, thank you to our panelists. Thank you to everyone in attendance. Hey, sis, take it away.
All right. And so there are just a couple of things in the way of announcements. Did you want me to do these announcements?
I want you to do those announcements.
Okay, just want to make sure. All right, we first want to make sure that we highlight our partnership with the University of North Texas Health Science Center at Fort Worth, and which includes the communication and prep and safety practices, and just to help to join the conversation about prep. Also, healing after trauma and trauma travels, as well as intersectionally sexual violence and reproductive rights, reclaiming our power against shame and trauma, and gain insights into sexual health. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so we have these wonderful partnerships as well as these awesome topics. And we just want you to know first and foremost that Kelly has created a safe space for us to talk about all these things, and no questions are off limits. We definitely, those of us who agreed to come up here and share, are open books. So feel free to give your insight and ask any questions. And now I want to make sure that we do some introductions, just brief 1-minute introductions. I'll go ahead and start. I'm Stay Hall, and I am the CEO of ISALT, which is Institute for Success and Leadership Training. And I just say in a nutshell, we help teach people how to act. And so then I just want to go ahead and start on your end, Kelly.
I am Kelly Allen Gray, and I am the Executive Director of AIDS Outreach Center and AOC. We've been around since 1986, and our mission is to serve people living at risk or with HIV and AIDS.
My name is Amanda Spears.
You gotta speak a little louder, ma'am.
My name is Amanda Spears, and I'm just here to be a speaker.
You're welcome.
I am Dr. Tasha Jones. I'm the CEO and founder of Satori Family Services. Excuse me, I'm a marriage and family therapist, and my specialty is working with couples and families.
Hey. Hello, my name is Dr. Kassar, or Dr. Tasha. I am the CEO and founder of Chosen Coaching and Counseling Services, where I am the expert in loving, supporting, creating, challenging, and curating spaces for African American women who are high achieving, over functioning, and I help them when they're in that loop of chaos, moments of uncertainty, help them heal and walk through their trauma by giving them some radical honesty, radical acceptance, so that they can begin to create the life that they want.
I love that. Hey, sis.
Hey, I am Shay Hawkins, and I'm a prevention specialist at AOC. I'm also a small business owner called Angels Next Door. You can follow me on Instagram or Facebook. I also help women to start their own home health care businesses, but I'm mainly at AOC helping with prevention. So letting everybody know, come out and get tested. Know your status.
Hey, sis. Yes, so we are just going to jump into it. Thank you for those lovely introductions, and you can see that we have an awesome panel up here. Now, I am going to start off with the questions that we have just to kind of get the ball rolling, but like we said, this is very interactive, so if there's other questions, please feel free. But as a panel, you also can just jump in. No one in particular has to answer any certain question. But I want to start off with, how can we redefine the sex talk? Because like I said, sometimes it seems to be taboo, especially in the Black communities. And we just want to make sure that the sex talk is more inclusive, more empowering, and more informative. So anyone on the panel, what is it something that you think that we can do to just start that talk in a healthy way in our community?
Well, I believe that we should start off with educating our Black women and letting them know that they do have a choice, educating them on what consent is, and also educating them on that they can enjoy, have a healthy sex life and feel comfortable in that space.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you said that, because I think sometimes the conversation about the do's and don'ts of sex is sometimes easier than the conversations about the fact that sex can also and should be a good thing as well, you know?
So can I ask a question? Because you said consent. Mm-hmm. And I think when you say consent, I think that's that question that everybody has, like, okay, so we tell young women, we tell women, period, young, old, no means no. But then we find ourselves in situations, right, that we've put ourselves in situations. And that situation is right there. And then all of a sudden we start screaming no. So does that no really mean yes? Because for some women, that's a part of the fun. I'm going to keep telling you no, I'm going to keep telling you no, so you get me to yes. Or, and as a man, we're so far gone. How you want me to just stop? What does consent look like?
Consent, I want to say, is twofold. And there are sometimes in cases where no does mean yes. But But in the cases of when no means no, and you, as you mentioned, being too far gone, I don't ever think that there's a situation where it's too far gone, because you still can leave if you're not intoxicated or under any type of influences. So that's where I mean by educating our women, young women, and young women that what consent looks like. Consent can be in the form of letting them know on the way to the location. We know this is what we're going to do, and you've already consented that this is what we're going to do. But if you get halfway through it, and you want to stop, you still can say stop. Unfortunately, one of the specialties that one of my expertise is that I speak with clients on attachment styles. And there's 4 attachment styles. We have secure and dismissive avoidant and fearful avoidant, and we have anxious preoccupied. Some of those attachment styles, they come with them different characteristics. And let's just use anxious preoccupied, for example. Well, anxious preoccupied are concerned with connection. And the hallmark of it is they don't want to be abandoned. And so because of that fear of being abandoned, although internally they want to say no, they surrender their boundaries and sacrifice their boundaries and go ahead and have sex even though they don't want to. And so by educating our young women, and that's one of the spaces that I help them with, is being able to understand that they're not flawed, there's nothing wrong with them. They just need to be able to have those healthy boundaries so when they say no, they know that it means no with themselves.
And I know for me and Kelly, we have this in common with being boy moms. And so as a woman who's raised sons, my thing was, even though I know as a woman sometimes no can mean yes, I just have told my sons, if they say no, you just done. We don't play those games, period, because you don't know what it means for sure. So I've just like, look, if you have that woman that likes to play hard to get and that's fun for her, just let her know that ain't fun for you.
Yes.
It's just as soon as you hear it, deuces.
Absolutely.
I would like to add to that just the redefining. I think in order to redefine something, we have to understand the way that we're seeing it first. And so I'm just piggyback off of what Dr. Natasha said. I think a lot of times when we talk about sex, understanding what sex means to you. A lot of times we use sex as coping mechanisms. And so we use sex, like she talked about, the attachment style for the shaming ourselves. And so we use it because we don't have secure attachment styles. We want the validation. And so we will use sex for people to validate us. We'll blame, especially if you've been a victim. And so you use sex as that power control dynamics. And blaming then turns into control, where we will also use sex for just that, right? To control people in that, again, that power control dynamics. And then the last one is just escape. We use it to regulate our emotions. When we want to feel better, we're anxious, and we'll have sex. And so I think it's important to understand how sex looks in your life, how you are relating to sex, because when you do that, then you can begin to redefine how to be in secure relationships, so that sex becomes this emotional, connective thing and not out of these maladaptive coping behaviors.
All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies. Let's see what else we have here. We also want to talk about, what does sex positivity mean to you as a Black woman? How can we foster a culture of sex positivity that embraces our diverse identities and experiences?
So what is sex positivity?
Being freely and open to talk about sex.
We can't hear
How do you want me to talk?
I want you to talk a little louder. I see you all the time, and you're the loudest person in the room.
To be free to talk about sex and not feel ashamed and embarrassed because you're talking about sex. That's what it means, I think.
But could that be in the way you dress? Could that
no.
be?
I mean, yeah, I guess, but no, not necessarily, because you're having a conversation. Your outfit is not the conversation.
Sometimes.
I mean,
Sometimes
that's just,
could be.
it depends on who's looking at you, I guess, you know?
Some men will look at you and feel like
Right.
you're easy or you want to have sex by what you have on. They
Right.
will. So that does play a part in being positive. So what you're wearing and how you're presenting yourself and what you're talking about or what you're doing can always be put out positive, just how you handle yourself. So if you're dressed well and you're speaking well and y'all having a conversation about sex, you got to still like conduct yourself in a manner that he knows or he or she knows that that's not what I'm really wanting to do. We're just having an open conversation, but I don't want to have sex with you.
Right. Because you can be fully clothed and still, you know?
I think that's something that should be stated in the beginning of the conversation.
Right.
When we think, thinking about sex positivity, the word being positive about sex, I'll reiterate, educating our young girls that you don't have to dress in these ways in order to get attention. You are beautiful. And also, we're afraid to talk to our girls and let them know sex is good. Right? We don't want to scare them away and thinking that that sex is as a negative thing. We just want to teach them that, hey, you're supposed to be getting something out of this as well, you know. So know your body, know what you enjoy, and being able to again set those healthy boundaries. But we also have to create a safe space for our girls to come to us and talk. I'm older, and so in my day, that wasn't something that you talked about. You did not talk about. It was like, just don't have sex. Well, okay, I'm curious about this thing you don't want me to do. And so being able to have those open conversations, creating that safe space, educating them, I think that those are the tenets of when we think about sex positive.
Well, I'm going to say something because I have a 17-year-old daughter, and we have those conversations. And I explained to her, when you're ready, you let me know. Just let me know. I'm not saying don't do it, but let's have that conversation. I explained to my daughter, like, don't be wanting to sleep with everybody, you know, like, because people are going to label you. They're going to talk about you. You're a pretty girl. Save yourself. We even went so far. I had her dad buy her a ring. When you're ready, let us know. We can talk about it. So I make her feel comfortable enough so when she want to go have sex, and I think that's what maybe when you were older y'all didn't do, but I'm 40, she's 17, and we can relate. You know, we're talking, I can relate to some of the things that she's dealing with now that I dealt with young. So we have those open conversations. So when she's ready, I expect her to come to me because I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just want to know so I can prevent you from this. And I even speak to her about stuff I see at work. So like now I done scared her. But at the same time, it's like we do have those open conversations. And I do like tell her, just be open. And when you feel like that's what you want to do, come to me and your dad and we'll make sure that you're protected and these are the things that you need to do. So I think
I had that conversation, I didn't mean to cut you off, but with my niece at age 15. She didn't start having sex until I think 19, and I was the one that she came and told because she knew her mom wouldn't understand, and you know, and I gave her that opportunity. Hey, you don't have to tell your mama what you do. You can come talk to me. Like it was somebody else you can come talk to about stuff like that. You just don't have to go to your mom because sometimes I think young girls that age they don't want to go talk to their mom about stuff like that. But my mom done me that.
I was fearful when I got pregnant young.
Right.
I think I told her the truth about everything but having sex because I knew what she was how she was gonna feel. I ain't gonna even lie, I hid being pregnant for five months before she even knew that I was pregnant because I just knew how she was gonna respond. I don't want my daughter to feel that.
Right.
And she's broke that generational curse because she beat me and my mom having kids. We both had kids at the same age, and she's older than I.
She's 21 now.
So like
no
now,
kids,
I'm happy
doing
that
good.
I give her the opportunity to talk to her. Because my mom, I was just fearful. Like, she gonna beat me down.
All right. So you may get some pushback on this. You don't start the sex talk when they're 15. You start the sex talk from 2 years old when you're letting them know that you have a vulva and a penis.
Okay.
By giving them the exact appropriate names instead of this is your tutu and your pee-pee or whatever, because if you start so late, then you haven't created that safe space. They're
Yes.
not going to come to you the way you want them to. But if you normalize it and you've had this conversation, then this is like regular, this is something normal. And then they'll come to you and say, I'm starting to have some feelings and I want to know what that's about. That's what's going to keep them abstaining from sex or holding out a little longer because it's been normalized in their home and they're not afraid of it.
Yes.
I think that creates the secure attachment where you
Absolutely.
have emotionally healthy connections. And so now you can be positive about sex.
Absolutely.
And like, even if you put some little sexy on, right? But you positive about your body, you're positive about sex because now sex isn't a maladapt. Like you're not doing it to cope with something. You're doing it to form emotional, healthy connections.
And I think when you mentioned something about talking to your daughter about, just even when you're ready, you can't just be sleeping with everybody and people will talk about you. And I definitely agree, especially, for a young woman. But I think sex positivity also in that is there's so much shame with women in this whole body count thing. Well, if I'm a grown adult woman, of course not 17, but if I'm a grown adult woman, I could sleep with somebody different every night if I choose to, as long as I'm being safe and it's consensual. But there's a lot of shame in that where people judge. And oftentimes people judging have done the same thing. They just don't think anybody knows. But I think there should be positivity in knowing. And just like everything else in life, we're all different. We're all different as sexual beings as well. Some people are just fine with sleeping around and that's fine with them. And I just don't feel like people should have to live in shame for whatever it is that they're choosing as consensual adults. And I think we need to, sometimes back away from the judgment of how other people choose to live their lives by things of how many people they slept with or, how many baby daddies they got, whatever. If it's not affecting you and your household, then we need to be able to be more positive about that.
Then it would be too much like right.
Exactly.
That would just be, that would be, that
How
would
can
be
we
too
live
much
without
like
judgment?
right. If I just stayed over here, in my space, because if I talk about you, then I'm not looking at me.
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly.
that's too much. But I want to say this because you said this and you said I'm much older, and a lot of us in this room are a little older, and I am the youngest of 4 girls, and so my mom was older when she had me. And so my mom said to me, I was the one who kind of walked to the beat of my own drum. She said, go to the left. I wanted to go to the right because I just wanted to know what was over there on the right. And so she said, if you kiss, you get pregnant. And then I kissed Jamie Lane, right? And so I kissed Jamie Lane, and I kept waiting and waiting and waiting. But you're laughing. But I was waiting. And so I am 56 years old, and every time I see Jamie Lane, I think, that's my baby daddy. You're right. But my mom was older, and so my mom didn't talk about sex. And it's really interesting because this is my great niece sitting right here. My mom and her mom had such a different relationship because they talked about all kinds of things. But my mom didn't do that with me. So, like you said, with my son, I started trying to have a conversation, but he was already having a conversation with his dad. So having the conversation with me was like, Mom, I don't want to know. But he went off to college with all of these condoms. Listen, I'm not trying to be a grandmama. I don't even like little kids like that. So, but, we have to do it, and we can't just do it with girls. We have to do it with the boys. Because, boys, they get their nose wide open, and it's a wrap. There is no coming back from it.
That's it.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what she was saying about having a conversation when they're younger, because I've been having this conversation with my kids for a long time, even my boys. Because I'm like, what that man give you this for? I explained to my kids, like, people are not just giving you stuff and you don't know this man for nothing. So I asked my sons weird conversation when they go to people's house, like, what happened over there? they touch you? Did they do this? And that's just something I've always done to them. So I do believe like you got to have that open conversation. And it's weird. Even Jordan 9, you know, so he be like, Mom, that's weird. I need to know. Like, tell me what happened. I need to, you know, I'm asking these type of questions. So it's very much so to ask young to have the conversations while they're young.
And enter the positivity young,
Yes.
because my mom was a victim of some trauma as a young person. So she started talking to me about sex since I could remember, but it was all negative.
Yes.
It was all negative, you know, and it was always, you know, teaching me about my body parts, but, you know, you don't let anybody touch you there and you don't do this, which was great. I needed to know that as well. But there was never anything positive said about sex. And so I think we need that harmony so that they need all of the information, the good and the
both
bad.
sides of it.
Yeah.
Something other than you gonna get pregnant.
Right, right, absolutely.
So that you see somebody 100 years later and you be looking like,
Baby daddy.
I'm telling you. You're like, every time I promise y'all, every time I see Jamie Lane, I be like, that's my baby daddy right there.
That
Right
is
there.
too funny. Let's see here. All right, ladies. In what ways does intersectionality shape the experience of Black women when it comes to sexual health and reproductive rights?
I don't even know what that means.
That one's above my pay grade.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
But that's like a therapist question.
I read it and I said, what?
Is there a therapist in the
I barely was able to read.
Right. Crafted that question.
Essentially, it's talking about how now this goes to the race. How Black women, when we go to the hospital for our medical care, we have to truly advocate for ourselves, because when we walk in and say we're in pain, automatically they think that we're med seeking, and unfortunately, there's a higher death rate in childbirth with Black women. And so being able to understand that that society does see us in a certain way when we go to the doctors, and when we do try to talk to our girls about sex, there's another piece to that we have to be educated about. And again, advocating for ourselves. Nobody told me that I needed to advocate for myself when I went to the doctor.
And that's, I mean, it's just so crazy that, you know, every conversation that we have, as positive as they are, is still always shining that light on Black women are at the bottom of every totem pole. We can't even get equal health care. And it is very important, because I just had a new grandbaby the other day, and so going through that and making sure that my daughter-in-law has the proper care and knowing how to advocate and ask those questions, because we are so often overlooked. And that's something along the same lines, is to start talking to our kids about young. You know, if something hurts you, if you're not feeling well, you know, to feel comfortable to know that someone needs to hear you.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
There's a lady, and I watched TikTok about this much, but there's this lady who does this TikTok, and she's in her 50s, maybe late 50s, early 60s. But she does this thing, and she says, and I was sitting here next to you, and I thought about you. Every time I see this video, I think about you. Because she says, there was a young woman who said that older women wanted to be, you know, we were trying to be like younger women. Mm-hmm. Oh, you've seen this. And she said, why would I want to be like you? You know, I'm already here. You trying to get to where I am.
That part.
You know, and so I think about you whenever I see that video, because this is my great niece, but this is my great niece who is like that chick who goes to and I'm not telling your business, but she hangs out. But you know, she'll go to the strip club. She'll take her little cousins to the strip club, and they just hang out and they have a good time, and they don't think about, you know, like what happens tomorrow. We're just gonna hang out. We're gonna have a good time. When I was her age, I never would have gone to the strip club. Like, what was I gonna do at the strip club? I don't want to see no sweaty crack. I mean, I'm not throwing you no dollars. I'm not doing. You throw me some dollars, but I'm not throwing you any dollars. I'm not doing any of that. But the generation is so different because we've raised a group of young women who are very free, who are very comfortable in their skin. But for as older women, let me say this. At one point in my life, I would have waited on you to come to me. If you interest me now, I'm just going to walk over to you and I'm going to start talking.
Yeah, right.
But because of the time that I grew up in, it was men always take that first step. But now these younger women, they like, I don't have time for that.
You see it, you own it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you buy it and you own it.
So she has this thing that she says butterflies are her thing, and she says, you said, why butterflies? She said, because they're pretty to look at and hard to catch. So, you're like, but what would my life have been like in my 20s, if I had been pretty to look at and hard to catch? I wouldn't have messed with some of them jokers at all.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's part of just choosing who you want, because I choose who I want. That's probably what she's saying. Like, I don't really let a lot of guys like me.
A lot.
I
believe
But
it.
I choose the ones that I feel like I want. Like, I don't,
No, I'm a hot commodity.
Yeah.
You hear me?
I think the same way, though. Like, a dude can't. But I'm single, too, so I don't know if it's working.
You definitely gonna have some drama.
I'm choosing to be single because
you're choosing not to settle.
I'm choosing to be
a
single
dry
because
moment.
at the same time I was like, I want what I want. I don't. You can't come just say, "Shay, you pretty. I want you." Type.
That's
No,
not
you
gonna
can't
work.
do me that.
But does that play into it? So my mom was a single parent, and she had girls. And so she didn't bring men around because she had girls. You have young kids at home. So does that play into it for you?
It do. I have a daughter, and most of the men that I talk to, I date now, have their own house. So if I can't come over there, you definitely can't come over here.
Right.
Like, I mean, I even me dating now, like, I don't bring nobody around my kids.
Right.
Unless it's gonna be something serious. But most of them grown men, you need to have your own house.
And I don't have any kids.
Like,
I have a
you can't
Rottweiler,
come
and they
over. If I
still
can't come
to
over
my
there,
house.
then what we talking for?
What'd you say?
I said I don't have no kids. I have a Rottweiler, and they still can't come to my house.
I'm going to.
You're right. I'll meet you at the restaurant or meet you at the wherever, but no. And it's gonna be understood before I walk out the door.
And we definitely, we're not gonna be talking about sex. At dinner.
We can talk about sex.
No,
It's intriguing
I'm
to
saying
them.
we're not gonna be talking about sex.
I want to see
in
what
my
they hear
first
that
meeting.
As far as the two of you.
Like right now, we meeting.
Right.
I'm talking about what you doing, where you going, what you got. Yeah, well, that's the conversation we have, and then if it lead to sex, I'm gonna give you some. But if it don't, the conversation didn't turn me on from that first time. Like it's not gonna be that.
Yeah, that's how it be.
And I'm even open. Like so, if you meet a guy, like if I meet a guy and we just vibe from that first day, I'm not gonna say, oh, I won't sleep with him. But it's gonna have to be something. It's gonna have to be something
spectacular.
special. We gonna have
Right.
to felt each other sincerely.
Right.
But
That just what do they call it? Animal magnetism.
yeah,
Right.
like he gonna have to be
Definitely
some type of
connection.
magic connection
Right.
that went on.
Well, ladies, I
Not the
want to
magic
talk
stick.
about something that unfortunately has plagued our people for years, and that is a lot of the sexual trauma that our Black women have gone through that unfortunately has been from generation to generation. And not necessarily the worst part about it is it hasn't normally happened from strangers coming in. It's happened within the family. It's that uncle in the back room. It's like, don't sit on Papa's lap. Like, what can we do to, first of all, be able to help some of our older women who've experienced and in some ways almost normalized it, right? Where that's just what happens and we don't talk about it. How do we help them overcome it? And then how do we help to prepare our younger women but not make them feel like it's normal or anything to be ashamed of? What are the conversations we can have around that generational trauma that surrounds sex?
I think that you have to get the older people to talk, because it's like, for me, my mom's older, and I think they went through some stuff younger. I never knew until I was grown that they had went through all this. So it's pretty much trying to get the older people to speak about what they went through, because your kids will never understand it if you're not telling them. And I don't know how to get them to talk, because it had to be somebody in the family to actually tell, for them to talk about it. So honestly, it's hard, because older people just don't relive their trauma.
Right, and so do we think it's because the shame and embarrassment of it? Because unfortunately, it seems like so many people who have dealt with any kind of trauma, but especially sexual trauma, they're embarrassed by it. And there's just still, no matter what, that, I guess, overshadowing thought of, what did I do to cause this to happen? And so what's the conversations that we can have to let people know that it's not your fault? And people who, sometimes dealt with things for years and years because they didn't want to speak out, or because they felt that, something would happen to other people in their family if they spoke out. How can we create that safe place for them to know that it's okay to talk about it and it's not your fault? What are the conversations that we can maybe start having with some of the older people so that we don't continue to repeat this cycle? What are the things that we can say? Do we bring up the questions ourselves, or what's that look like?
I think a lot of times with the older generation, because of the rules in that generation, that we may not start the healing there.
Okay.
I think what needs to happen is, usually the shame is within the family, right? People know it's probably happened to several people by the same person, and whoever speaks out, right, we protect the person who's doing it, and then we shame the women. And so I think a lot of these conversations won't start in the family. I think these conversations will have to happen individually. The healing will have to happen individually. And I always say that once we heal, we pour forward. So we break it for the next generation. And then what you hope is that it kind of backwashes up into the family, so that the older generation may get some healing as well. But I think a lot of times speaking about it in the family does more damage because of the shame. I think it just makes it worse when you try to have the conversations within the family. Unless you come from a family who is already open and honest, but if they're open and honest, the conversations are already happening.
Right, exactly, exactly. Because I think that's where some of the lack of empowerment in sex and the lack of positivity in sex comes from, because so many women in our culture have experienced that sexual trauma. Then it's hard for them to have a positive sex life with their spouse. So either they're shut down with sex, or they weaponize sex because sex was weaponized against them and caused that trauma. So now when they are with someone who they should be having sex with, they weaponize it and use it as a way to punish somebody. I'm going to withhold sex because sex to them is still something that's bad. And so I think that the positivity, should happen through talking through those traumas and realizing that sex should not be weaponized either way, whether it's to traumatize someone, abuse someone, or to punish them. Sex should be something that's a good thing and happy, and we should feel empowered. And so how do we empower women?
One of the things that I absolutely love about working with couples is when I have a couple that comes to me and there has been sexual trauma, well, oftentimes you'll hear the guy say, hey, that's your thing. That doesn't have anything to do with me, but there's a responsibility that you have to me. And so one of the things that we get a chance to do, we do get a chance to kind of begin that conversation. But here's what I tell my couples. We all come into relationships with baggage. And when I'm coming into the relationship with you and you see me outside with all this luggage, you can't tell me leave your bags outside. So you can help me bring my bags inside. Now, it's not your responsibility to unpack my bags. That's my job. But I need your support in creating that safe space, making it comfortable for me because I've already been traumatized, and which is how their luggage was created. So having that conversation and being able to teach them what to say. Guys don't know what to say either. When this person who they love, their ride or die, has experienced this and they don't know what to do. So we have to educate them also so that they can also create that safe space for their partner to be able to begin or continue this path of healing.
And when do you all suggest that those conversations happen as far as even sharing with a partner that you've had this sexual trauma? Is that something that should happen early on in dating? Because I know for a fact a couple where they had issues when it pertained to sex, and it was because of trauma she had, but he didn't find out about the trauma until they were having issues and they were in couples therapy. He didn't even know she had been through that. So when do y'all suggest, we talked about when do we start talking to our kids, when do we start talking with potential sexual partners about our traumas?
In the beginning, definitely, especially if there's somebody you see a future with. Me, I wouldn't even be sitting in therapy with a person that's telling me I can't deal with this. Like, we wouldn't even made it that far because this is what I've been through. Either you're gonna embrace it and understand it and respect it, or I wouldn't even made it that far because I would have definitely already expressed to him that this is what I went through. I don't want to go through this again. Be understanding. I wouldn't be sitting in therapy with him. Honestly, me.
I agree. My husband is sitting in the audience, and when we first met, I opened up all my bags. Right. Look what I got. If you want to deal with it, you can deal with it. If not, hey, you know up front, you get the option to walk away. So I believe you do have to give it up front because how are you going to circle back around to that conversation? You know, after you've been dating for months or even years, and you're going to couples therapy, and then it comes out, that's not fair to your partner. Exactly. But it's also not fair to you because you could have had an advocate all this time, someone to help you heal from that. So definitely, in the beginning, if you're afraid to do it, that's because you're shaming yourself. You're shaming yourself. And you can't allow people to make you feel guilty. I'm saying make you feel, but nobody can make us feel anything. But shame and guilt are not the same. Shame is what we do to ourselves. Guilt is what we think somebody else thinks about us. And so when we're shaming ourselves, that's when we have to feel comfortable enough to be able to go to that person who's created this safe space for us to be able to begin having those conversations. But if you go into a relationship already thinking, I'm ashamed of what I did, I can't tell this person, all you're going to do is re-injure yourself.
Right. I think it's ideal to tell in the beginning, but what you say, and I think a lot of clients that I work with, because of the shame, the denial, right? You're not even honest with yourself when it's happening. So to tell someone that you love and the fear of being abandoned or rejected is a high possibility that we're not talking about it when we first meet, because I haven't even told the truth to myself about it happening. So yeah, I think it's ideal to tell in the beginning, but I think that is what therapy is for, right? Therapy creates that safe space for you to, one, be able to clarity, like I talk about the radical honesty, so that you can get honest about your story, so that you can understand how to share it. Because sometimes sharing it can re-traumatize you. So if I can help you work through it, then I can help you tell the story in a way where you can get support and not be re-traumatized.
And I want to talk about that, as you said, help you work through it. What does the steps towards healing look like through therapy? What is that plan? So someone comes and says, I've dealt with sexual trauma in my life. I feel like it's affecting me today in my relationship or future relationships. What does that healing process look like through therapy? And how do you know when you're healed?
It's a journey. Healing is a lifelong process, I believe. I believe we're not healed until we in the casket. Like, that's when the healing stops. But what I do is I walk my clients through, I call it the 4A challenge, and it's that awareness. So we're really not talking about the trauma, the story of the trauma. We're talking about the impact the trauma has had on your life. Because this has happened, now let me be aware of how it's created pain in my life. How does this pain look? How do I behave because of this pain? What beliefs, we call them, it's cognitive distortion, so limiting beliefs. What limiting beliefs has this pain caused? And then how is it impacting my life, which we then go to from awareness to acknowledgement. And then that's acknowledging that, yeah, that's what it looks like. This is how I look outside. This is I like to call it the loop of chaos or the pain cycle. This is what my pain, this is what I believe is true once I'm triggered, and then this is how I behave. This is how other people experience me. This is the product of my trauma. And once we do that, then we start taking actions. Now that you can be radically honest about it, and you have some radical acceptance around it, now I start giving you tools to begin to dismantle this pain cycle. And once you get the tools, that's where the healing begins. And then we start speaking different truths to, like you talked about, the shame and the guilt. So now I'm giving you different language to tell yourself, because we're doing a lot of things in the brain. We're rewiring the brain with these truths as we're recreating this pain cycle to get you to a place of clarity. And then when you get to clarity, then we bring in some accountability, because we don't know things work until we're in relationships, right? Relationships are the mirror. I remember telling my mom, like, before I got into a relationship, I was like, I think I worked on my anger. I really ain't that angry no more. Then I got in a relationship. I was like, I don't know what happened. I thought I wasn't angry. I'm still mad.
If you had to tell your mama that, then you knew you were still angry.
Right. It's like, who are you trying to convince? Who are you trying to convince? Yeah.
And so it's usually in that accountability when we get into these relationships that we realize, like, okay, this part is healing, but we still need to work on some things. But relationships create, I like to say, relationships create quantum leap healing. When you can get in safe relationships, you begin to see the healing happening a little bit faster when you are in these sisterhoods and healthy relationships.
Right, your butt gets big too.
And so you mentioned the sisterhood. That was hilarious. You mentioned the sisterhood, and so we've had a couple of mentions today that a lot of us in this room are seasoned women of a certain age, and possibly going through and navigating that change of life that they call menopause. And so in that part of life, what does healthy sex look like in menopause? I know that there's a lot of women going through that, and where they feel like they've lost their sex drive. A lot of women I've talked to have said that it has spiked. But then one thing that I hear with women of a certain age that maybe doesn't even have anything to do with menopause, where they find themselves faking it through the sex. And is faking it okay? And, does that, change? Is it a cause of menopause, or is that something that a lot of women do? Like, what are those things that us women deal with? I mean, can you have a healthy sex life through menopause, and is it okay to fake it sometimes?
You can. When I started going through menopause, I literally thought I was losing my mind, because no one had ever talked around me about what menopause was. You hear not hot flashes, but menopause is so much more than hot flashes.
Oh my God.
And I mean, it has a psychological effect on you, those changes in your body. And for me, it wasn't a diminished sex drive. It was gone. I was looking under couches and looking under cushions and stuff, and trying to find it. And one of the things is being able to communicate that when you're going through menopause, other people don't realize that, if it's affecting them, it's affecting me too. I'm going through this as well. And so in working with couples, when women are coming to me with menopause, or even, perimenopause, that's the premenopause, I tell them, talk to your girls about this, first of all, but also helping them to understand that our bodies do go through changes. And this is where the sex therapy cap comes into play. just because you're going through menopause and there's no sex drive doesn't mean that you still don't enjoy sex. You can still enjoy sex and have an orgasm even though it wasn't on your mind. And so educating women about just because you don't have a sex drive doesn't mean that you don't want sex. When you're talking about faking it, now that's not just with women of our age. It's also with younger women, and that's because they have not been able to say, "Hey, this is my spot. This is what I like and what I don't like." And so, as opposed to having that conversation, they just fake it and to get through it. And so that's another piece to that. So when we're going through menopause and being able to have that sisterhood, because you feel like you're by yourself. You feel like you're by yourself. And then, of course, when you're having these hot flashes and no one is telling you that there's a blazing inferno going on inside of you, you can be in the middle of your job and you're like, okay, I'm starting to strip off clothes. But even when you're in the midst of those and having those hot flashes, there's a psychological thing going on inside of you too, because you are burning up and you can't think straight. You go into this rage almost of, having to get out of that. And then when you have a partner and they're just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to move back. No, don't move back. Move closer, because I need to be able to talk about what's going on with me. But even before we get to that, we have to also educate our women and understand that things do shift around in there. And we have to let them know that, okay, what was good for me and felt good to me yesterday hurts. So, but if you do this over here and do it like that, okay, we can get some motion. But our bodies, things shift around as we get older. Things shift around as we're gaining weight and losing weight or what have you. It's shifting around. Nobody told us that. Nobody told us that, okay, my G-spot used to be here. Now it's way back here. So now we're going to have to really do something deep to go in. But being able to identify and being comfortable with our own bodies and knowing what it takes to satisfy us so that we can communicate that so that our sex life does not have to diminish. The other part of that is when there's a situation where there is no sex drive and where there is no sex desire, well, now we're talking about the mental health piece of it, because it could be psychological that this is going on as well.
I was going to also, because you talked about pleasure, and I think that the younger girls do a better job at knowing that sex is for them. But I think that there's generations where we were taught that sex is for men. And so I think that is a lot of times why we will fake it and be okay with that, not realizing that sex is supposed to be enjoyable for you. So I do applaud the younger generation for, taking back the narrative and saying like, no, me too, please, me too. And so I think that is a lot of times why women will just fake it, because it's that mentality of it's not for me, it's for me to please someone else, validate someone else.
So the thought that, because I get to be in a great space. I get to be with those, 40-somethings, 30-somethings, 20-somethings, and then my older group of people. And so what I find really interesting is that a lot of older women, they don't enjoy sex. I had this lady said she prayed and asked the Lord to take her the desire to have sex away, and I thought, that's never going to be my prayer. Girl, well, give me yours. I mean, do something, but don't, And then, so when we were having the conversation, and she was saying, do you still have sex? Until the day I die. I mean, but then it was almost as if I felt like she was shaming me. Like you should not derive pleasure from being sexually active. You should not, and so when you have those conversations and, here again, now it's just kind of like, listen, I'm grown. I'm not that little girl anymore. So, but, you should not, I think, as you said, younger women have said, this is what I want. And as older women, we're still, there are many of us who still waiting for somebody to tell us what it is that we want. So I have a whole group of women who, and I sent this text to Stay, who do toys. And and if that's your thing, that's your thing. But you have another group of folks who be like, I don't want, now I don't want my man to use, I don't want you to strap on nothing and use it with me. But if that's what you do, you do that. But I mean, at this point, there's so many ways to find pleasure and to have pleasure, whether you have to do it yourself, because he ain't found that G-spot that's way back there. Sometimes you need to give folk a roadmap, and they don't know how to read maps no more. They don't, that Google gives them directions, and Google don't always send you in the place that you need to go.
Right there.
So, but I think that becomes that part. Who's mama? I love her because she is like my mama. She is sitting over and laughing. I love it. But that's just true. And so you're like, but I don't want anyone to feel like you can't enjoy sex. You cannot enjoy being sexually active at any age. So I have a friend, and she just turned 93 on Monday. White lady. She is the jazziest person ever. And one day we were talking, and she said, I need you to give me some positions so that I can have, so that I can do some different things with her husband, insert his name. And so I was saying, girl, you got a Maybach. Listen, have you broke in the back seat of a Maybach? Because that seat led all the way back. It do some things. If y'all ain't never been in a Maybach, listen, I'm just telling you. But listen, I didn't say I had sex in the back of a Maybach. I'm just saying that's what the Maybach does. For those of y'all, the seats led all the way down. It's a cool ride. For her too.
So basically you're saying you open to doing it in the back seat.
But I mean, if that's your
I'm just saying, are you open to?
I was a teenager. Of course I had sex in the
I'm
back
saying,
seat.
are you open? I'm saying today.
In the Maybach. Now that's their Maybach. Now if I had my own, it'd be a totally different story. Oh my God. But no, I'm not, because I think that's the joy and the pleasure of being sexually active with somebody that you want to be sexually active with. That's the joy and the pleasure. Because if you can't do that with Lottie Dottie and everybody. That's just not that thing. But if that's your person, that's your person.
Do whatever you want to do. All right, y'all. We would be remiss if we did not take advantage of this awesome studio audience that we have. And we have been having a good time. And so I want to make sure that you all are included in the conversation with any questions that you may have. We have the mics floating around. If you have any questions, any insight, something you want to lend to the conversation, I'm flipping it over to y'all. What y'all got for us?
I'll pull Lakeedra out the back. Come on, Lakeedra.
Hello, my name is Alicia Creeks. I'm a counselor, but right now I'm just an audience member. I'm enjoying myself. And I wanted to touch on when you're talking about sex positivity, and y'all can share more on this too, but the difference in just enjoying sensuality, and when girls and young women and women of all ages just enjoying being a woman, whether that's feminine or however you express it, sometimes just feeling beautiful. We don't do that enough, and being able to compliment one another and how is sensuality connected to sexuality. Mm-hmm. And when you walk out and you step out and you feeling like you all of that in a bag of chips, does that mean you wanted sexual attention? So I loved how you all touched on that before. You all talked about how do we get the older generation talking when things have happened in the family. Me and my mom went to a play, and the subject was about those things, happening in that play. And afterwards, we had our kind of conversations, and I was able to share things I went through. And my mom shared with me a date that had gone horribly wrong, and we had never talked about that before. So, maybe that's a way to get, all the women talking. If you make an event of it, hey, this play is coming to town, this movie is coming out, this TV series, and that subject's embedded, and sometimes they will open up, even if they get quiet or uncomfortable. If you watch their body language, you'll realize, oh, wait a minute, there's something there.
That's a good start.
I'm stop there.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
Okay, so how do we get Black women room to explore their sexuality, which leads to sex positivity and sexual empowerment? We're not just talking about, I'm bisexual, so there are women who are tuned into this conversation who also do not identify as heterosexual. So can we make space for them, and as in the Black community, how do we make space and leave judgment for people like that?
That's the thing right there, leaving the judgment and just realizing each one of us is uniquely different, and the things that bring us joy and pleasure are going to be unique to us. And it always just boggles my mind how someone else can be so upset by the way someone other than them is choosing to live their life. It's like all I want, and having, children. I have sons biologically, but I also have bonus daughters. My only hope for them in that arena is that they are happy and safe. I don't care who it's with. I don't care if it's same sex, different sex. I don't care what color they are, how tall, how short. Because that's the thing. We just move slow, I feel like, in our culture, because it wasn't too long ago where we wouldn't even accept one of our children marrying outside of the race. So, of course, now we're finally starting to accept that. But God forbid now that you say that you are gay or bisexual or whatever. Like, we're just so slow to accept and so quick to judge, when the thing is all we should want is for people to be happy and safe.
So a big part of that, because this is our thing that we deal with every single day, is stigma. So I don't, and my kid asked the question, how do we deal with it? First of all, how about you step out? Because I can't deal with it if you don't tell me. And if you're still hiding it, then how am I supposed to talk about it? Because you have 1 foot here and 1 foot there, which is the thing that we see every single day. That if you are bisexual, then stand loud and proud in it. And let me support you in it. And that's the only way we're going to be. You have to be the person to step out. I can't support you if you just whispering it.
But I think like a lot of other things we talked about, Kelly, it's about having those conversations early too, to let them know even before it's an issue. No matter what you decide in your life, no matter what your partner is, just know I'm always going to support you.
Everybody
You
is
don't
invited
have
to the
anything.
cookout.
Exactly.
Everybody is invited to the cookout. But when you come to the cookout, how are you going to show up? Because you can't come to the cookout, here again, you want me to accept you in your whole space, but you're not accepting. You haven't accepted you in your whole space.
Right.
And I think that's the part where we all get lost. Is I can't accept it. You can't expect me to do something for you that you haven't done for yourself. And so, at this point, I don't care who you are, who you love, what you do, because I promise you, every single day I see something different that I thought, wow, I didn't see that one coming. Okay. And so now I have to wrap my head around it. And then once you kind of wrap your head around it, you're like, okay, but then there is some foolishness that we are not going to normalize. So I'm going to give y'all a quick story real quick. And for those of us who work at AOC, we already know this story. So there's a young man, he comes in, he says, hey, I need to get tested. My husband's baby mama needs to get tested. So we already like, what? So then the husband's baby mama comes in, then the husband shows up, and then the cousin shows up. So we have 3 people who've tested positive. And then the woman says, well, who do you sleep with? And the cousin say, I sleep with him, and I sleep with her. And her is the cousin. I can't normalize that.
No, absolutely not.
I'm sorry. Your foolishness is just foolishness. Because y'all, and then y'all have some kids in the middle of this foolishness that you now say, oh, you're shaming me. No, you should be ashamed for all of this foolishness that y'all have going on, and 3 of the 4 of you are HIV positive, and now the cousin is out on the bus stop twerking because he ain't HIV positive yet.
Right.
That's foolish.
And of course, with you bringing up a story from AOC, we definitely have to talk about the importance of being tested.
Absolutely.
And how people can go about being tested and also eliminating the shame of that. And so I need somebody from AOC talk to us about testing and what that looks like and how important it is, but yet how easy it is to be tested.
Okay, wait.
Yes.
Before you answer that, it's 2024. People are still ashamed to go get tested for AIDS.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I thought that was like
No, because it's 2024 and
2006.
people still don't even believe that HIV is real. It's like Corona. You know, Corona ain't real, but
Right.
your grandmama died from it because you was out hanging out on the corner and brought it home. So, you know, so, you know, you like, okay, I'm going to give this to to Shay, but what this conversation should be too is, yes, you should get tested. Yes, you should know your status. But for all of us who are women, who are single women, who are sexually active, and we're not quite sure what our partners are doing, because now our partners, male and or female, are having interrelationships with male and females. And so PrEP is one of those things that's really, really important. You might see the commercials, but I'm not going to do the commercial. I'm going to let Shay do the commercial because this is Shay's part. But I want you all to really and seriously think about that piece because that's important.
So to piggyback on what Kelly says, we are living in 2024. You do have women that's single but sleeping with men, that's sleeping with other men, that's sleeping with women. It's just a triangle of because we're open. The younger generation is open. We're trying different stuff. So we do have PrEP. PrEP is a drug that helps you prevent you from getting HIV. And I recommend any woman that's like, okay, I'm still dating. I don't know what I want to do. I'm still trying to figure out this thing, to get on PrEP. PrEP will prevent you from getting HIV. Also, knowing your status, you will be, you get checked when you're on PrEP, but at the same time, to know your status to prevent it. HIV is not a death threat now, but if you don't know, you will die from it. And that's the thing. People come in all the time and I just want to be tested for chlamydia or gonorrhea. You don't want to know if you got HIV? You should want to know. And you're seeing a post on social media, the rates are high because the younger generation, we are living in our truth. We are sleeping, a lot of people are sleeping around. So I think for the black women, a lot of black women are contracting HIV because of the lifestyle that we are living, and these men, whoever, are bringing it back to us. So it's a good thing to consider PrEP, to think about PrEP, because it can save your life. It can save your children's life. Like she said, the lady came in, they had, a mess going on, and she was pregnant. Hadn't even seen a doctor yet, with 2 other small children with her. To us, it's saddening because you're not even protecting your children. So if you on PrEP and you knowing you got all this stuff going on, it will prevent you from getting HIV and spreading HIV. And we see these type of things every day. Men that don't want to tell their kid's mom that they're positive and still sleeping with her, but still sleeping with men or whatever the case they prefer. It's just not, this day is, you need to take consideration to take PrEP.
So Shay, how do they go about getting PrEP? Is it over the counter? Is it something they need to get from their PCP?
No,
or how does that go?
we have a PrEP location at Impact, or you can come into AOC and let us know that you considering PrEP. We'll give you the guidelines and what it consists of to be on PrEP. You'll fill out the paperwork, we'll do your blood work, and there it is. So and you only send a doctor via Zoom. You're not going in, and it's twice a year. And they're gonna still give you all the medication you need, and you're safe. It's preventing you from getting HIV.
And I want to add that it's not just people who are sleeping around. These are
No, it's not just people. It's not just people just sleeping around.
It's
But
also we have to think about individuals who select to be in non-monogamous relationships.
Yes.
And so because you're thinking, okay, if I'm in a poly type relationship, then these are my partners. We're not sleeping around. But you want to make sure that we're educating them as well that they still should be tested and
yeah, but let me clear that up too.
the
It's not
resources out
just
there.
people that's sleeping around, because you run into situations where nobody slept around, but your partner did, and they'll give it to you. So it's not just about, oh, we want to sleep around and we want to have multiple partners, because some of these women are wives of 13, 14, 15 years, and their husband give it to them. So it's not always them type of cases, but still, you just never know. So prevent yourself. Take the PrEP and just prevent yourself from even being in a situation where you have to even live with it.
Yes, okay.
And then can you also clarify that it's not necessarily based off your sexuality?
Yes,
so
it's not.
Straight men can
Yeah.
have gotten it from a woman as well.
As well, yes.
Okay, yes. But it is a very, very small percentage for a woman to transmit HIV to a man.
Because most of the time, even a lot of times, a man is doing a penetration, so the man is the one that's spreading it. Yes, of course, a man can give it to a woman and she can possibly spread it, but it's rarely that she will give it to somebody else. So even when you come in, we'll have those type of conversations that they want. We'll educate you more on how to prevent it and how you can get it. So.
And listen, y'all, we test married men, we test married women. Nobody is safe at this point. And you know, that's not to scare you, but it's simply to tell you the truth. Especially with African American women, by the time many of our women come in to test, they have full-blown AIDS.
Yes.
They're past HIV, because when we start to sniffle, when we, start feeling bad, I say this all the time, we take some Robitussin, we take, some Tylenol, we get in the bed, we do whatever, and we just keep going until we can't go anymore. And so we're so far down that road, that it's hard for us to come back. And then we get that diagnosis, and then we don't tell anybody. And so we're living in fear, and we're living in shame, and that stigma, it takes us other places, and we're going down we're spiraling down versus how do I step into this and I live a whole healthy life. And a part of that is our community, because when things happen, instead of us embracing it, we talk about people, we shame them, we make them feel bad, we make them feel dirty. But if a person has cancer, that's not how we treat them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, y'all, we have come once again to the end of another powerful Hey Sis conversation. The time goes so fast, but the dialogue today was absolutely dynamic, and I thank each and every one of you for being here. And the conversation is going to continue. Our next one is in September.
It's in September.
So in September, the Hey Sis train is still rolling, but thank you all, because this was just definitely an awesome conversation. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Kelly, to close us out.
Listen, every time we do this, I learn a little bit more. I feel a little bit smarter when I walk away from here.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
more importantly, I just get to be in the presence of some amazing women.
Absolutely.
And to hear the laughter and the conversations, it really does my heart good. I want to end with just some good news because I want to talk about AOC, y'all, for just a minute. So a couple of weeks ago, 3 days in a row on a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, AOC was just like out there. So on Wednesday, June 26th, we won a $10,000 grant for our food pantry from LabCorp. So we're really, really excited.
Yes.
And then on June 27th, we won a $90,000 melanated movement grant for Hey Sis. So some real good stuff is really about to happen. And then on that Friday, June 28th, we won a $2.5 million grant from the Housing and Urban Development for housing for persons living with HIVs, with AIDS. And so we are really excited. But what's so excited is that Hey Sis really just kind of started from a conversation. Say and I, Shelby and I, Tanya and I, my team and I, just having a conversation. Now we have funding because we were kind of funding it out of our pockets, you know, and the kindness and generosity of other people. But now it has its own money. So some good things are really going to happen. But I would ask that you mark your calendars for September because we're going to be at the Cigar Bar.
Yes.
And we're going to bring some men into the conversation.
Yes.
So we were at the Cigar Bar last night and got a whole earful of some stuff. Listen, y'all, it was interesting. So we're going to the Cigar Bar, but then in March, we're doing a women's conference. We're doing a Hey Sis Women's Conference, so stay tuned. But to all of you who are here, to the panelists, thank you so much for coming and sharing and being open and honest. And allowing us to pick your brains and have silly conversations as well as serious conversations. And to everyone who has gathered here, thank you so much. And shout out to Bridget, who is still here. She is like, I've been here all day long. I'm ready to go home. So Bridget, we're going to turn it over. But thank you again. And Shelby and Adrian and Nathan, thank you so much for making this production come to life. And to my girl, Stay, who is always by my side. I love you.
Yes.
Hey, Sis.